This is James Helder for IFL-TV in association with Macklin's Gym Marbella. I'm in Wolverhampton today. With me, I've got, interestingly enough, Frank Warren's matchmaker, Jason McCORY. How's happening, Jason? All right?
Yeah, not so bad, James. Not so bad, James. Yourself?
Good. Yeah, I'm very well. We haven't had a chance to really have you on the channel and get really to know you a little bit. So I thought, while we're up here, no time like the present, we'll have a little chat and get you on the channel a little bit, mate.
Brilliant.
So I appreciate you giving me a bit of time. Firstly and foremost, before you came a matchmaker, could you talk to me a little bit about what you was doing in boxing and what sort of jobs you was taking?
I was working as an independent international matchmaker. Before working for Frank, I worked for the artist formerly known as Frank Maloney. I worked for lots of small promoters, pulling them out of a hole when a Brit pulled out, or if they needed a particular fighter. And I was inundated with work, basically all in the north, from the M25 all the way up to Scotland. You know, most shows, any foreigner that needed bringing across, I took care of every single one of them.
I met you firstly in Liverpool on the first time David Price took on Tony Thompson in front of his home crowd.
That's right, yeah.
That's the first time I came into contact with you.
Yeah.
Now, it was quite interesting because you know what we like at the show. As soon as the fight finishes, we try to get the exclusive footage, or we try to get as much as we can with the fighters, etc. And it was quite interesting because I bowled into the dressing room, knocked on the door, came in, and yourself and Tony Thompson were a bit shocked, I think, by my just willingness to carry on filming.
Yeah, I remember that because obviously I was working for Frank, looking after the foreign boxer in Tony, and he just fought David Price, and it stopped David Price, and he was just being piss tested, which obviously don't really want cameras in there at the time. And then you disappeared, and then because then they did the press conference with Price afterwards, and Tony says, "Where's that guy?" I said, "He's gone." I'm like, he says, "Okay, well, tough." And then you turned up again. I went, "Oh, you're here. Indigo then, is there?" And I remember the interview. It was a really good interview because Tony was sat on the chair, and you know, and Tony's a great interviewer, isn't he?
He's great.
You know, you know, so yeah, I remember that quite well.
I mean, but then when you went and got me and then brought me in, said we got a great interview with Tony Thompson, and it was good to have a good chat with yourself and you know, and just see what you was doing. Interesting.
Yeah, I was always one of those guys that sort of people see me at shows, they don't really know what I do around, but you know, some of the times the shows would have gone tits up. I found that foreigner to bring across to plug that hole. So yeah, I've been around quite a while.
In your opinion, what has been the best fight that you've matchmade and that gave you the most satisfaction?
Give me the most satisfaction. And that's quite a tough one. There's a few matches that I have made that have gone over. You know, when the public enjoy it and the public are talking about it, you know you've made a good match. So I mean, the most recent one would perhaps have been Jack Catterall and Stalker. You know, and that was well received by the public. Then you got Eubank and Saunders, you know, all the most recent matches. But you know, I made a few on the small hall circuits as well. That was Martin Gethin with a guy called Ivan Godor in Peterborough, and that was one of those Masters titles. They just knocked lumps out of each other for 10 rounds. The crowd loved it. So I mean, there's been quite a few, but I think my favourite fight that I've put together is probably Frank Buglioni's first fight for the WBO Europe against Hobarth from Czechoslovakia, because he didn't have it all his own way, you know, but he managed to get to him and stop him later on in the fight, and it was you know, Frank had been doing well up until that point, and then you know, it's come through and won himself a WBO Europe title, and it just seemed to send him on his way. He alright, a little stumbling block, but you know, he's past that now, and he's doing all right. So that was probably one of my favourite ones. Yeah.
All right. On the flip side of that, now you're gonna have to be a bit brutally honest on here. What fight have you made that you expected to be a great fight, but it stunk the place out? Give me an example. And no disrespect to the fighters involved, as we know styles make fights. These things happen.
That I expected to be a good fight and was a stinker. Oh God. think I can't. Honestly, I'm not trying to sit on the fence. I'm trying to actually give you an honest answer. I'm just trying to think which one stank the place out.
Well, maybe Stinker's a bit strong then. What fight did you expect to catch a light that didn't catch a light that you matchmaked?
None. None. You say the one that I expected to catch a light but didn't. One I expected to catch a light that didn't. None. I've got to be honest with you. You know, if I knew a fight was going to go, you know, if you got two counter punches and they have to fight each other, you know, it's not going to be a contender for fight of the year. As you know, the old cliche that styles do make fights. You kind of know, you know, from your research and everything like that, when you put two guys together, roughly what's going to happen. The result, you don't know what's going to happen, but you know what type of fight it's going to be. So during the course of the interview, I'll try and give you an example of one.
I mean, the matchmaker task is sometimes a thankless task, because if it's a great fight, a fantastic fight, sometimes maybe the promoter will get the credit for making the fight. If it's a terrible fight and the fight ain't great, then more time is to do with the matchmaker. Do you think that's a fair answer?
Yeah, it's a fair assessment, I guess. But you know, at the end of the day, the promoter picks the matchmaker. The promoter puts the money in, so get all the credit as far as I'm concerned. You know, when it's not a good fight, you know, he's employed the matchmaker. He's okayed the fight, and shit rolls downhill. So it is the matchmaker's fault.
How long have you been building your database of fighters as a matchmaker?
How long's a bit of string? Well, obviously, I don't just attend the big shows. I attend the smaller shows. I mean, even if I'm not working on an arena show for Frank or what have you, you know, you'll quite happily see me on one of Carl Greaves' shows, being the house second. You know, it's a great way to sit and look at potential fights that other people have put together, and he'd do for this, he'd do for this. You know, so you quite often see me at small hall shows as well, just kicking around or maybe even working just as house second. It's best seat in the house anyway.
I've seen you as well doing the cuts a lot of time for fighters. Recently, notably with Dillian White, last week at the Cannon Centre.
Yeah, I do all my own guys. Well, with the exception of a couple, I do all my own guys' cuts. I do all of Lee Beard Stable's cuts. I do Dillian White's cuts as well. And if anyone else wants me as well, you know, I'm there to help out as well. You know, any of Frank's fighters that need a cut man that haven't got one with them, you know, I'm there to help out. You know, all part of the team.
I mean, you joined Frank Warren's stable as a matchmaker officially last year. Was it quite hard for you in terms of coming into a company where the matchmaker previous, your predecessor, was so well liked, so well known, and kind of tragic circumstances in which he had left? Yeah,
it was very difficult because Dean was kind of like my mentor, if you like, and when he sadly passed away, you know, there was a few holes that were left in some of the cards, and I got a message through to see if I could help out with some of the holes that were left that needed matching. And one of the up and coming ones was Stephen Orman was supposed to be fighting Scott Harrison on a dinner show, and I got a message from Andy Alien and Tommy Gilmore to see if I could help out, and I managed to bring across Adam Mate, who I thought was going to be a good fight. Oh, there we go. I thought it was going to be a good fight because I'd brought him across previously and he'd had a really good fight with Georgie Carmen, and I thought this is going to be a good fight. He was only a lightweight anyway, really. And Ormond, I think, finished him in the first round. So that was one I expected to be a good fight for a dinner show, and ended up not being a bit of a letdown. So there you go. There's one for you now.
There you go. There you go.
So, and it can't. And then there was then I think it was the first Copperbox show the very next day. So, and I did cuts for Tudinoff. Strangely enough, it was across at the time. It says needed cut man, so I'll go and do that then. And it was difficult because you know, previously when I worked for, like, when I matched the Amir Khan show 6 months previous, you know, or any big fight that I made before working for Frank, I would always phone Dean and have a chat and everything, and say, you know, what do you think of this fight? If I was a little nervous, or, you know, because as a matchmaker, you know, you sit there and you think, oh, I hope we're going to get the home guy turned over. And Dean had said, oh, you've done the right match here, things like that. Well, all of a sudden, the first time I worked for Frank matching the entire Copper Box show, my safety net had gone, so I was on tenterhooks most of the time. But yeah, it was difficult, and to be honest, my first, when Dean passed away, was whatever I could do to help out, because I used to do a few foreign bits and pieces for Dean as well, bringing in foreign fighters. And it just, you know, worked out. They asked me to come down to the office, you know, and asked if I wanted to do the job full time. Obviously, working for the top promoter in Europe, you know, Hall of Fame promoter, you'd have to think twice about it, really. So yeah, it's just kind of worked from there, and I just, you know, I keep my head down, get my matches made, and that's that, really.
There was a lot of rumours as well as to who would get the job. I mean, there was loads of names mentioned. And your name I heard mentioned a couple of times, but as I said, before that time we hadn't really got to know you that well, and the work that you was doing sometimes would go unnoticed by the TV cameras and the TV crews, you know?
That's right. Like, you have got an exclusive. I don't often do interviews or anything like that because, you know. But yeah, to be fair, a lot of people in the office didn't know who I was, because any work I did for Frank in the past all came through Dean. Dean will say, Jason, I need a guy for this and a guy for this. Can't get anyone in the UK. If you got any contacts, bring somebody across. And I bring someone across. I mean, I had 3 on the undercard of Ricky Burns versus Kevin Mitchell. No one saw me. No one was. I used to sit with the foreigners and wrap their hands or and go in their corner. So no one really knew what about. One guy actually thought I was a foreigner. So
big Russian.
Yeah. So. Yeah, no one in the office really knew who I was, but I know they did the research with people, and obviously they spoke to Frank Maloney, who just recently retired, to see what he knew about me, etc. So, you know, I've done a lot of work for Tommy Gilmore up in Scotland. So, you know, people like that putting in a word for you and everything. That's how it came about, really.
I mean, before working for Frank Warren, you notably, as we've discussed, done a lot of work with Frank Maloney. Was there any inklings that Frank Maloney would become Kelly Maloney when you worked with him?
No, not really. No, I'll be honest with you. But I suppose it's not something you look for, is it?
That's right.
You know, but I'm one of those guys that if he's the first guy. Can I get that?
Take your call, yeah, by all means.
Hello, mate. Can I call you back? Hello, mate. Can I call you back? Thanks, mate. Cheers, mate. He's the same guy that gave me my first opportunity of doing TV matching and stuff like that. Always paid me well. Always looked after me. So, you know, if he's happy, happy days.
I mean, it came as quite a shock to the boxing fraternity. You know, like, no one really discussed the rumour or expected it. So no doubt you was probably as shocked as the rest of us.
Well, yeah. Of course, we're shocked. It's not something you expect, is it?
What do your day-to-day tasks involve now, working for Frank Warren?
Well, obviously matching, as is in the title, but it's not just about getting. As where before it was about bringing someone across to fill a hole. Now it's about bringing fighters in and putting fighters in front of the boxer that develops them and moves them forward. So I'm kind of more involved in the development of the fighters as well, finding new talent.
Which is obviously key to any promotional company.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, obviously Jack Catterall's one of our leading lights at the moment, a good up-and-coming boxer. You know, he was one that I brought into the fold because I'd worked with him on the Amir Khan show and done cuts for him, and then I got a good relationship with Lee, and I started matching some of the, you know, and obviously I brought across Joe Costello and Adrian Gonzalez, all these that particular group of fighters, which are all good fighters with a good future. I brought in Terry Flanagan to the stable because, you know, again I'd matched him on the Amir Khan undercard with Nate Campbell. And you know, he was 21-0, former prize fighter winner. I think he was the current English super featherweight champion at the time as well. he fought Nate Campbell. I think he was rated 16 in the world on box rec or something like that, and it wasn't promotionally a free agent. It was with Steve Wood, who I used to do a hell of a lot of work for, and managed by Steve Wood, but he wasn't with what you would call one of the big three promoters. And I just thought he could, you know, with our influence behind him, he could certainly move on, you know, and get him into a position where he has the opportunity to fight for something. He got the British title, and now we've got the fight this evening between him and Stephen Ormond, which is, for me, as a matchmaker, it's great because I don't have to worry about getting the home guy turned over because they're both with us. So I can actually enjoy the fight without the knots in your stomach as all matchmakers get.
I mean, that's a great fight. Looking at it on paper, as we said, it's a fantastic fight. It has all the attributes to be an absolute cracker, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, you've got Stephen Ormond, who is tenacious and has got a great amateur pedigree. Then you've got Terry Flanagan, who is a good counter-puncher, current British champion. You know, and the winner of this fight, I mean, the prize at stake is absolutely huge, it's absolutely massive.
Talk to me a little bit about some of the fighters you manage. I know you're involved in the management and development of some fighters. Can you tell me some of the guys that you've currently got on your books?
Yeah, I've got Simon Barkis, I think as everybody knows, cruiserweight champion. He's cruiserweight champion. He's a two-time ABA champion. He's in his 5th fight tonight. It's his last 4-rounder, and then he's going to be moved pretty quickly because he's got good skills, fast hands. You know, I've sent him sparring with Klitschko twice. He sparred with David Price. He sparred with Tony Bellew before he fought Nathan Cleverly. Sparred with Oval McKenzie, and he's held his own with all of those. So yeah, I'm quite excited about Simon. I've just started managing Tommy Langford, who I think everyone knows is a really great prospect. In the
Real good middleweight prospect, isn't he?
Oh, really good. Again, fast hands, accurate, good footwork, you know, good work ethic. A really nice kid as well. I've got the 2 guys up in Liverpool with Mason Cartwright, light middleweight, who's again one of those fighters. He does love a fight. He really does enjoy having a fight. Very popular lad, sells a lot of tickets. Young Mikey Joinson as well from Kirby Amateur Boxing Club. He's had his first fight. We didn't get to see a lot of him because he stopped the very durable Alex Baza in 34 seconds, dropping him twice. So I'm excited about him. And we've got, I've just taken on Scott Seward from Dartford. Some pictures of him with Dillian White.
Now, talk to me a little bit about Scott Stewart, because I saw the picture with Dillian White.
Yeah.
And he's towering above Dillian. He's 21 years old, is that right?
Yeah, he's 21 years old, 19.5 stone, and he hits like a mule. He really does. And
bright ginger hair as well.
Yeah, he had 1 amateur fight. He knocked the guy spark out through the ropes onto the judge's table, and then no one would fight him for it. So he's in the amateurs waiting for a fight for 18 months. He had some K1 fights and everything, and I think he had 14. He stopped 13 of them, lost 1, and then won 1 on points. So, you know, again, someone that likes to fight. I've put him with Mark Tibbs to help him out with his technical skills. You know, Mark's a very good technical coach. So hopefully that'll bring the best out of him. And, you know, he did a bit of, I say sparring, it's the board's assessment thing. It's not real sparring, but yeah, so him and Dillian got on okay together. So that was nice. And I've got young Leon Wonderboy Woodstock I'm really excited about. He's like a super featherweight Nigel Benn. He loves a fight. He can hit. 24 amateur fights, 20 wins, 17 by stoppage with those amateur gloves on. You know, and he beat the highly rated Ryan Fillingham in the elites last year. So really, really excited about him. And I also manage young Isaac McLeod as well, from Sunderland. Massive ticket seller, massive talent, a whole host of amateur accolades to his name. So yeah, I'm you know, currently managing and developing those guys. But as well as, I mean, you know, as well as the guys that Frank manages. It's my job to develop them as well.
Interestingly enough, you're in a position where you see a lot of fighters turning over pro, like we just discussed about the assessment. Do you think the board's assessment is stringent enough when it comes to turning pro, or do you think it may be too strict? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think. I mean, before they used to have what they call a trial bout, and that was a good test to see where somebody's at and to see whether they do need. Now I understand it's an insurance thing where if they ask somebody to spar that's not licensed and somebody gets hurt, it's a big insurance problem. I do think it's very hard for an inspector now to judge whether someone is up to turning professional, because they look at them working out on the pads, on the punch bag, and then they look at, it's not sparring, they just kind of shape up, it's kind of soft, gentle, no one's sparring properly, it's kind of, they're just shaping up and seeing if they can move their feet, etc. But that can be taught, and learnt, as where getting in there and sparring with someone that maybe the board would appoint, will give them a clearer indication of just where this new kid turning over pro is. I mean, if they've got an extensive amateur background, then they don't need to do it, but I've seen a few guys recently that really did not deserve to have a licence.
I mean, sorry to bring up Freddie Flintoff, but when he had his fight and got his licence, a lot of the lads that were turning over were a bit sceptical as to whether the tests were stringent enough,
I think he was part of the time when they actually had a trial bout.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most of the inspectors in the southern area, I would never call into question their integrity, because there's some really good blokes on there. So if they were in that behind closed doors sparring session, because it was a trial bout then, they would be in the best position to make that call. And also, I think you had to go back for a second trial bout, so they didn't just rubber stamp it and push it through. They made him go back for a second trial bout to make sure that he was not going to get hurt.
I've been fortunate enough to watch a few of these trial bouts before the legislation or law changed by the board. When did it change, Jason, that they didn't have to have a trial bout?
I'm not sure. I don't think it was that long after.
Can't be that long ago.
After Freddie Flintoff turned over. I don't think it was that long after it, to be honest.
Well, listen, we're in Wolves today. Your job as a matchmaker is almost done. You've now just got to.
It's never done.
Now biting time as you watch the fights, no doubt. And I really appreciate you giving IFL TV a bit of time, and it's good to get you on the channel properly, mate. It really is.
Great, thanks a lot, mate.
It's all right.
Cheers.
I'll see you soon.